So in this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to master the newly added circuit, Portimao in F1 22 to avoid you doing this. So yeah, if you don't want to be doing any of that, make sure to stick around in this video because I'm going to be teaching you how to tackle this circuit so you don't spin around. And I'll also be showing my telemetry data from RaceNet. If you do want to compare your telemetry data to mine, make sure to go to the pinned comments and add me on RaceNet. So without further ado, let's get into this one. And I'd like to thank everybody who's on the screen right now for being channel members. If you do want to support the content past just liking and subscribing, make sure to click the join button underneath the video to learn more. Okay there guys, so as you can see, this track is quite unique because you actually need to set the lap up from the penultimate corner, and that's because the final corner itself is actually completely flat. So going through this final corner now, you basically just want to make sure that the car is not scrubbing any speed. As I've said in previous videos, scrubbing is very, very important in this year's game, even more so than the other games. So you want to open up DRS, make sure you're not scrubbing as much, and you're starting a lap at Portimao. So very similar to the previous game on F1 2021, coming up to the 100 meter board now, you want to make sure that you're bringing the car over to the left so that you're actually carrying as much speed throughout the middle of the corner as possible, because you can lose a little bit of time here. So just after the 100 meter board, you want to shift down into 5th gear. I've noticed that I've gained the most time by shifting down into 5th gear and then short shifting back up to 6th gear. You want to make sure that the car is pretty much placed right next to the yellow sausage curve. You don't want to hit it, of course, or else it's going to unsettle the car and it will lose you a lot of time or send you out wide and you will invalidate. This is a very tricky exit here. It's so easy to just go a little bit wide and invalidate. So you want to make sure the car is placed here at most, because any more and you risk invalidation. So just be careful with that. And then, as I said, short shift up to 6th gear. Once again, try and be as close to the yellow sausage curve as you can without actually touching it here. Now, this is a very, very tricky braking zone because, as you can see, the meter boards are all the way to the left. You cannot see where you're braking based on the meter boards because for some reason they're all the way over there instead of on the track where you can actually see them. So the braking point for this is around the 50 meter board, but obviously you can't really see that. So coming up to this corner, what you want to do is actually use this white line as a reference point. So you want to start braking as you're coming up to this white line and brake even earlier in wet conditions, just because you can easily lock up going into this corner. So in dry, 6th gear, straight line, down into 3rd gear. Make sure you're as close to the yellow sausage curve in the middle of the corner as possible. Then you want to pretty much, as you'll get into the yellow sausage curve, just put a little bit of throttle on, just because you can lose a little bit of time here since it's an uphill section for this one. Short shift up to 4th gear. This corner is very, very tricky. You'll see probably in my telemetry data on RaceNet, or if I actually showed the footage, you'll see that you have to sort of be full throttle and then come off the throttle a little bit as you're coming through this corner in 4th gear. Short shift up to 5th gear and then get your foot back down, full throttle as quickly as you can. Use all the track necessary and open up DRS. And that is pretty much the first sector at Portimao. So for the next one, you're going to be in 8th gear going into this corner. Use all the track necessary. The curve doesn't unsettle the car too much for this corner. So just after the 100 meter board, you want to brake a little bit earlier than you usually would, just simply because it is a downhill braking zone. And obviously it's harder to stop something that's going downhill. So 8th gear, down into 3rd gear, and then pretty much as soon as you hit the apex, which is right around about here, get back on the throttle as smoothly as you can. You're going to have to use all the track, literally have your tires pretty much on the white line coming out of this if you want to actually gain a decent chunk of time throughout this corner and then get the car back onto the tarmac, because you need to be on the left hand side coming up for this next corner, which you're going to be taking in 7th gear. Well, you're going to be going into it in 7th gear, and pretty much the turning point, you lift off, you turn in pretty much as you're coming up to this curb here. As soon as you hit it, boom, downshift into 6th gear. You want to keep your foot on the throttle just a little bit, maybe around about 20 to 30% throughout this middle of the corner here. 6th gear, then get your foot back on the throttle as much as you can, and then just after you pass this white line on the left hand side, that's when you want to try and straighten up the car just a little bit, down into 4th gear, and then just try and carry as much speed through this turn 8, I believe, as much as possible. This is very, very tricky corner. It's one of those ones where it's uphill, so you have to try and get on the throttle early, but at the same time, if you get on the throttle too early, it can unsettle the rear. So it's a very tricky corner to sort of get the hang of, but it's really all about practice and just getting used to it, muscle memory, stuff like that. So yeah, as I said, get on the throttle early because it is an uphill traction zone, meaning that you can lose a lot of time the later you get on the throttle. The short shift up to 5th gear if you need to. Stay on the left hand side really, because you don't lose too much time by going over to by sticking to the left rather than going to the right and then carrying the speed through. You don't lose that much time. So just stick to the left and then coming up to this corner now, you want to stay towards the middle of the track. This is a very tricky braking zone, but you can see the meter boards a little bit more clearly than you can into turn 1. I think you're going to be in 6th gear coming up to this corner. And pretty much the 50 meter board or the Visit Portugal board that you can see right next to it is pretty much going to be your reference point. So just after you pass those, right around about here is where you start braking, and you pretty much want to use the tarmac as your reference point in terms of turning in. You can see that on the track, you've got 2 light grey patches and then you've got a darker grey patch. You want to be following the darker grey patch because that's pretty much the best line through this corner. Down into 4th gear, pretty much hit the apex, don't touch the yellow sausage curb, and as soon as you get around about here, that's where you want to get back onto the throttle. It is a very tricky one because, as you can see, you can't really see the exit until you're there, and plus it's a downhill section as well, so it's a lot easier to lose the car in traction. But you just need to get on the traction for this next corner. I think you're going to be in 7th gear coming into it, and once again, the meter boards are pretty much non-existent, so you've got to use the white line as your reference point here. So as you're coming up to the white line, this curb is a little bit more susceptible to actually unsettling the car, so just be careful with this curb. But as you get to the white line, you want to brake down into, I believe, 4th gear or 3rd gear. 3rd gear maybe just to get that rotation in. This is a blind corner, so it's very difficult. You want to try and get as much rotation as you can. And then up short shift up to 4th gear if you don't actually use 4th gear throughout that corner. Carry the speed. You want to use all the track here, but then you want to shoot the car back over to this side because obviously this is the penultimate corner. You need to get this corner right, or else you're going to lose time all the way up to the start finishing line. As soon as you hit the curb, that's pretty much where you want to dab on the brakes, downshift in the 3rd if you need to, or just stay in 4th, and then, you know, just hit apex, boom, and then try and get on the throttle as early as you can, because as I said, the earlier you can get on, the more time you're going to make up to the line. But once again, it's all about just not scrubbing any speed. Use the track if you need to, and then open up DRS, and that is pretty much a lap around Portimao. So what I'm going to do is showcase a full lap that I've done around this track so you can see how to tackle it in real time, and then we'll get towards the end of this video.
That last lap was a 1:16.8. Okay, so far our fastest lap is a 1:16.7.
Okay then guys, so that is how you tackle Portimao on F122. If you have been following the channel over the past week, you may know that I've started a brand new series where I'm going to be learning how to build and actually building my setup spreadsheet live with you guys. We've already done Bahrain, and the next track I believe is Jeddah. So yeah, make sure you're subscribed to this channel if you want to actually catch me doing these setups live. The main goal of that series is not only for me to learn about how setups work and build setups for you guys, but it's also for you guys as well to learn how to build setups. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned to that. And remember guys, as always, make sure to go to the comment section and let me know how much time you were able to save on this track thanks to this track guide. Make sure to smash the like button if you did find time and you did enjoy this video, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.